Hi, I'm Thomas Cannell, and I am the father of Summer Cannell and Parker George Cannell, and my sister Kelly, and Summer.
Hi. I have worked alongside my mother since I can remember. I was the annoying kid that picked up her carving knives and started picking at things that I wasn't supposed to. Yeah, we've all been apart, worked together and enjoy every minute of it, and teaching everything that we can to our kids at this point. At her age, my kids both do art as well. And every opportunity to be able to watch and grow from that is, I think, a great experience for them and was a great experience for Tom and I growing up with our mother. And it's kind of hard not to get into it when you see it every day of your life and you live it.
My mom was encouraged her whole childhood by her mother to become an artist. And in fact, my tet, which is my grandma Edna, she encouraged her up until I was born. And then my mom decided that while she was a secretary, a legal secretary, that she should probably take it on as a full-time hobby. And when I was in her womb and she was on maternity leave, that's when she decided that she would try that. It took many years, but then she did it. And her mom encouraged her throughout all of that. And mom received a lot of criticism for breaking barriers and not creating traditional art, in the sense that Europeans like to see art that is, for a purpose. And when it comes to Musqueam art, we're not making art for the sake of making art. We're making art because it's adorning our utensils. It's adorning our clothing. It's adorning our houses. It's very much a part of our lives. And it typically represents the person or it represents the family. And in our case now here today, we're creating art that represents ourselves. And we're very contemporary in the sense that we are sharing the inner parts of ourselves through the traditional teachings that we have been taught. And you end up with pieces that, in the case of Kelly, Summer, my mother, and I, are very unique and different from each other. It doesn't look like things that you would see in maybe an old museum collection or even a private collector, but you come up with this very well-rounded display of evolved Coast Salish art that we're quite proud to share with everybody, because it comes from a long lineage of art that is ceremonial, and to this day is still a ceremonial.
It tells stories. It's their way of sharing legends, stories, everything.
Kelly's right. It's very much personal to the artist, which is traditional, but also we're able now to share it with such a broad audience that we now can do things that are not just spiritual and connected to ourselves, but now we can create art that is speaking to things such as the environment or things that we feel very strongly or proudly for. For example, my mother created a series of artworks based on political, scary things happening, such as MH81, where the whole jet was lost. And Kelly's creating artworks. I'll let Kelly speak to her own artworks, but my artworks very much have to do with what I've felt in nature. And if I'm sitting in a park, it's the small things that give me inspiration. It's not the whole park as a whole. It would be the butterfly landing on a leaf and watching the leaf flutter in the wind, or it would be a dragonfly attacking another bug or something, and then you find this way to meld it in your mind and create something that is as beautiful as we could possibly make it. What is it like having a grandmother that is famous and your friends are in school and they're researching her art?
Well, I don't think grandma's that famous, but it is cool to have my people acknowledging her and her artwork.
No, it's
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like my kids too, they do projects, school projects, and some moms are coming out asking me to get books signed for them by Susan Point, and the kids love it. I don't know, maybe there might be a little bit of embarrassment because they don't know how to take it yet, but they love it.
Sometimes people would not acknowledge it in the way that we expected them to acknowledge the artwork. I really probably realized that I was on the right path when I learned from Summer that her friends in school were doing an art project on me. And I didn't realize that I was at that level yet, but all of a sudden I was. And
So you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
It is such a large part of our culture, and I think, that alone is just a conversation in itself, but you've got it being not only a big part of our culture, but us also bringing, like for my artwork, I like to bring awareness and speak about the environment, how important all these things are.
I would like to say I'm frightful for my children who right now are watching development more than we're watching parks being created and safe places. Kelly and I have been collaborating on a number of artworks lately, and the forefront of our mission through these artworks is to create a sense of awareness for the natural habitat of even the smallest creatures like frogs or dragonflies or salamanders. Kelly and I were super fortunate to be friends when we were kids, and we would, well, Kelly laughs, but we
Not all the time, but most of the time.
as friends, in 20 years ago, we would have the opportunity to go into undeveloped areas and catch tadpoles and watch them turn into frogs in a pond that we made at home, like a haphazard pond. And Kelly and I have rescued eggs that have fallen out of crow's nests, and Kelly and I have we've always had reptilian and amphibian and every other kind of pet like we've had.
And if we didn't, we went out and explored. We were super lucky. We were always gone out together, running through the bush.
That's right.
Being a part of it all the time.
We felt like animal rescuers for a while, and we would definitely always have a house full of animals. My parents would not be surprised if we came home with a new dog, and
a snake
or whatever, anything. And it for us was probably the most natural thing that we could have done, because every small child loves watching how things can heal, how things can grow. Every kid loves a tadpole, because you watch the tadpole and then the tadpole grows 2 legs and then 4 legs and then it loses a tail, and next thing you know, you got frogs. And Kelly and I definitely spent our childhood just in the woods, in the wild, as much as we could in this urban city. So we hope the same things for our own children, but we have to go a little further and deeper into the woods now to find all these little creatures.
You guys sure sound like you guys have a lot of fun. I think you try to get me out a lot. We go for walks.
We go camping.
Yeah,
we
we
take
go
you guys
camping a
camping
lot.
all the time. We do our best to get the kids out as much as we were able to when we were kids.
I will never forget, Charlie, when I used to take Summer fishing as a child, and early on she loved it and she would catch the fish, but very quickly she realized how slimy the fish were, and I'd have to take them off the hook for her. She wasn't as excited afterwards.
That's not me. To me, I think breaking barriers would be, it could mean so many different things. It could just be the style, it could be the medium, you're pushing yourself to do something different or something that nobody else has done before. But I think it's important to say as well that we also make traditional pieces that we try to, keep traditional, and then the other ones that we're pushing to be more contemporary. I've definitely done tribute pieces where Mom did in her earlier years of artifacts and such that were found. During
the 1900s, it was forbidden for us to create things that were traditional, and it made it difficult to break barriers. And when artists such as my mom came back into the scene, they had to create things based off traditional ancient elements, and it was difficult because everyone had only this one mindset of what First Nations, and in our case Coast Salish First Nations art was, which was that which they had seen in a museum. There was at least 2 generations of artwork that were lost, where it would have evolved immensely, I'm sure, because of the influences of the newcomers to the territory that we all share and live in today. I think that the barriers that are broken, for the most part, are personal barriers, because it's difficult for people today to reconcile a lot of the things that had happened to our parents and our grandparents, and just getting out of what is the expected and anticipated mold. There has actually been times where I've applied and gone for art jobs where they decided not to choose me because my artwork was actually not what they expected Native artwork to look like. They were expecting something very traditional, and when I show them something that is contemporary, they say it doesn't look like First Nations Native artwork, and they refuse to accept it. Other ways we break through barriers are within our own family. Kelly and I are very competitive, and sometimes she'll show me something and I try to one-up her, or she will try to get the better of me even. So the barrier is always there. It's just how far do you want to measure a barrier from? Is it something that Summer's going to be able to break through? I hope so. And Kelly and I promise that we'll continue to challenge each other, and I think that's how we make our art new and fresh and exciting.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely still experimenting with things that I like, and most of the art I do is just based on things that I like to look at or enjoy doing.
I think that the First Nations youth of today are standing up and using their voice to be heard by every level of government, expecting that there's a retribution that is owed. There is a sense of acceptance that we feel that we're not getting, that we should be getting. Lots of our older ancestors, our grandparents, and our aunts and uncles have been left behind, and they're not capable of expressing themselves with their voice the way that kids are now today, with social media and with websites and with protests. It's difficult, and I hope that the youth, they are successful in what they're trying to accomplish, because there is a sense of everyone needing to feel equal in this world, and we all want to be brothers and sisters with one another, and not define the differences between one another, but share in the similarities and the likes and the loves that we all share on different topics, such as the environment, or as cultural sharing, or as education and science. I think that the kids of today are really leading the way for us older people. I'm only 40, but I think that they're setting a new path that we're all going to have to learn to live with in the next 10 years, because the environment and the way that we have been sort of ignoring it in a sense are going to be forefront in the very near future.
I definitely think the youth right now is trying to change a lot of things that are going on right now.
Yeah, well, I think as any parent, regardless, I want them to be strong, confident kids that are proud of who they are, where they come from. And that's our job, Tom and myself, to make sure that we educate them in our culture, our artwork. That's our approach to teaching them, is through artwork. And then them be able to carry that on and tell their story or their side of it.
Kelly and I are very adamant and persistent to teach our children the same things that were taught to us as we were youngins. Our grandmother taught us many traditional foods, and our mother taught us very traditional art. So I think that we have a well-rounded sense that we're trying to pass on to our own children. And if they pick up just one or two of the things, well, then that's great, because in a community such as ours, we rely on the whole village to teach our children. So I'll have an uncle or a sister that will come in the summer and will teach her something that maybe I had missed, or maybe that I just had forgotten, or maybe it was something that maybe I thought was inappropriate for me to tell her, that she could learn from someone else that maybe knows more to it or more about it, or is just better at speaking to a young teenage girl than I am.
Definitely. We are lucky that way. Our culture, we have such a tight community. We have such a tight family. We have a huge family. And like Tom said, there's always someone there to speak up and help out.
So what is awesome about the way that we mix like our cultures, like food and story and all that stuff?
No, that's a tough one.
No, it's awesome. I'm excited. I can't wait. I want to go and share my experiences that I have here in the Pacific Northwest with everybody, and especially entails going to Taiwan. I want to go to China. I want to go everywhere and just share what we have and pick up what I can, because that's the best way for us to become a global society.
Okay. On that note, I'll take over. So I was fortunate enough to go to Italy for a glassblowing scholarship, and that was one of the most incredible experiences, being able to immerse in their culture, but bring one of my traditional pieces that actually represented a strong legend of our homeland, and that was one of the best experiences of my life. And being able to do that, sharing that through artwork, was an incredible experience. And I would love the opportunity to be able to share that, my biggest passion, art, and understand a little bit of what they do, how they do it, and showcase or show them how we do it.
First of all, I would like to just thank you, Charlie, for giving us the opportunity to display our artwork to a wider new audience through the lanterns in Vancouver. I have always been told by my mother and my aunties that we actually share a lot of similarities in our traditional cultures. Kelly and I have a huge family, as she was saying, and there's a lot of Asian influence in our family. There's a lot of cultural mixing already in our community, as when we have a traditional dinner, like we'll mix things like dim sum with like salmon and like traditional things like that. It's something that has been going on for a number of years, so it's piqued my curiosity. I would love the opportunity to maybe go and meet a family and bring to them something that I can bring myself personally, like maybe a traditional way of making food, or a traditional way of touching a piece of wood to see what comes out of it when we carve it, or even just on a piece of paper. But the opportunity to have them reciprocate and teach me the same way that I want to explore would be wonderful.